A political action committee is formed by an industry or an issue-oriented organization specifically to participate in the political process.
Every other healthcare industry group, some who are supportive, others who are opposition, or others who are opponents to this process, all of them have active and vibrant PACs.
It's vital for any trade association to be involved specifically with policymaking at the level of the Ohio Revised Code.
The PAC is extremely important to our legislative process in promoting CRNA issues in Ohio.
The CRNA PAC is direct participation in the political process.
Ohio State Association of Nurse Anesthetists Political Action Committee is comprised of CRNAs and SRNAs that are members of OSANA.
They volunteer their time and energy. They work with our PAC chair to come up with multiple ideas for raising funds for our organization so that we could contribute those dollars to legislators and help improve our efforts at passing legislation that represents CRNAs.
The money is used to contribute to legislators' campaigns, fundraising events, so they can be aware of who CRNAs are and what our agenda is.
Because that is a way to garner the attention of legislatures and also support CRNA-friendly legislators and get them elected to different positions in the House and Senate.
And by contributing to their fundraisers, their golf outings, by showing up, you are making them aware of our issues. You're forming a relationship with these legislators.
The CRNA PAC in Ohio is very specifically meant to promote the profession. So I think it's important to understand that it's not about expressing anyone's individual political view, but more about promoting the profession itself.
I think it's crucial for nurse anesthetists to participate in the legislative process. It's crucial for anybody that cares about the profession to do that.
The major point of the CRNA PAC in Ohio is to make sure that your voice is heard. And it's a way for the association very specifically to participate in the political process.
This is how you demonstrate to the world that you care enough about your profession to support it in a way that has direct access to try to influence people and get them to understand what it is that you do.
And legislators very oftentimes are making large personal sacrifices. It's not easy to run for office, but they are participating in this political process. So they also respect those that are willing to participate as well. And by doing so, that really helps to be able to spread your message and spread the word.
The fight now is at the state. Our scope of practice battles for traditionally have been 10, 15, 20 years ago have been federal issues.
The AANA PAC is important on a federal level. However, none of those funds filter down to the OSANA PAC.
The state level is where we have to put our money.
The OSANA PAC money goes to our state legislators in the House of Representatives and in the Senate in Ohio.
And if we win the battles at the state level, then the people at the national level start to see that. So we have to go back to our states, we have to contract back in, we have to come back here and make this a solid place for CRNAs to work by getting our scope of practice up to what we're trained to do.
When the fight comes, and it will come again and again, even if we make progress forward, you have to keep your eye on that progress because you can get set back from what you passed. It's a constant thing. It's part of the luxury of our jobs that we have. We have great jobs, we help people we're happy with, but there's this other part, the political part. Why should we give legislators our hard-earned dollars? Because you have to understand where the power is for our practice. It's in the laws, and they're the lawmakers.
They will have a very direct and specific impact on the practice of nurse anesthesia in the state.
One of the problems that we're finding is that many representatives weren't actually aware of what's my constituency, what's the voice, why do these guys matter to me?
There's a couple of members of the legislature who are doctors and know what CRNAs do, But for the most part, people that don't work in the medical profession don't know. And what we found out when we started representing CRNAs about a year ago was that legislators really had no idea what they do.
Most legislators, at least the new ones, will not know about your profession. They don't know about most professions.
You have to understand how many things a legislator has to focus on in a day.
Legislators on a daily basis are dealing with issues that can range from national defense, banking, taxes, agriculture.
The state budget last time was just over 5,000 pages long. It's $60 billion of money getting pushed out the door in one bill that touches 11 million Ohioans in a variety of ways in all kinds of different capacities. And they have to be experts on each one of those little categories.
They're reviewing and going through and meeting with folks from all walks of life, all industries, and all professions in the state of Ohio.
Now, things change with each election. So some of the people that we have been working with to try to get them to understand our issues have moved on, and now we have a set of new legislators, in addition to ones that we've already have relationships with that we need to keep building. It's a constant paradigm of keeping your eye on who's in power.
A new General Assembly has just started. In this General Assembly, there's 23 new members of the House of Representatives. Most of them have not served in the legislative body before. In less than 2 years from today, the day that we're filming this, there's going to be another election where at least 18 more new members are going to be elected to the House of Representatives. You're going to see a constant change in the leadership of both the House and the Senate at the top levels, being a new Senate president and a new House speaker on a fairly consistent basis. You're going to see new committee chairmen that are now chairing the committees that are vital to CRNAs and where our issues are going to be heard and debated. But you're also going to see a change fairly consistently in the membership of those committees as you see it in the whole of the body. They want to get to know their constituents. Most of them take the obligation or the responsibility of representing their constituents very seriously. And they do so without party affiliation. So they want to get to know you, they want to get to know your profession, and I think they want to be able to make informed decisions when the time is right, or when they're going to be asked to make a vote about any profession.
What I hear from people is that I don't want to get involved in national politics. I don't understand. I always see those people in trade magazines. But your state people are people you know and work with every day. There's not a part of the state you can't go in. There's not a current or past board member that will help you get involved. And your legislators are right here.
It's fairly easy to find your elected officials in the state of Ohio, both in the Ohio House of Representatives and the Ohio Senate. You can go to the Ohio House's homepage at www.ohiohouse.gov. And right on the front page in the bottom left-hand corner is a search engine that will help you find either by district or by zip code that will clearly identify who your state representative is. You can find your state senator at www.ohiosenate.gov, and it will have the same search engine on the bottom left-hand side of the homepage.
When you do that, there's phone number, there's email, there's multiple ways to contact them, and all these ways take less than 30 seconds. Make a phone call, go on the website, send an email.
Call their office, write them a letter, introduce yourself.
I would certainly encourage members to write a letter to the legislator about the issue at hand, whatever that is, or just introducing themselves.
There should be a letter asking your state representatives or senators to co-sponsor a bill to support the industry that you work in. Then I think that should be followed up with a phone call. I think it's important to do a face-to-face meeting.
That personal meeting is really, really effective, and that really the letters that may follow that are kind of a secondary, important, but certainly not as important as that first meeting. So a letter, an email, personal note, things like that, impress the legislator, because a lot of people don't do it.
I think it's really important to invite your elected officials to come see you work and see the setting that you work in so they understand what it is that you do.
Representative Sarah LaTourette, she really said that she didn't understand what CRNAs did or how different we were from other practitioners, nurse practitioners or anesthesiologists. So we invited her to a surgery center where she was able to shadow a CRNA in an all CRNA group and see firsthand what CRNAs did. It was extremely valuable for her to see the benefit of, at that time, perioperative ordering, how that would add value to the team, and how the team encompassed the surgeon and the nurses, as well as the anesthetic, and how that benefited patients and safety.
And then last but not least, I think it's really important to try to attend a fundraiser. And for as many of those touches as possible, try to connect up with the lobbyist to either make the introduction, to take you to the fundraiser, have the lobbyist bring the elected person to your office so that they understand that it's not just the people in Columbus that they see on a regular basis, but those lobbyists are really connected to CRNAs in the field who work in the district, vote in the district, and most importantly are supporting the people who have been elected as the public officials in those districts.
What you don't want to do is show up at their office one day when you need a bill passed and say, I'm Joe Schmo and I need this bill passed. You want to develop this relationship well in advance.
So I would say the first thing you want to do is try to attend an event or find a way to have an introductory meeting where you're not asking for something. The next one would be to show them more information or give people more information about what you do. The third step is then, if there's an ask, start talking about what kinds of things would make this profession more successful in Ohio.
You know, you first go on these visits, it's intimidating, you don't know what to expect. And honestly, it's not near as intimidating once you get there. You actually realize that these people are just regular folks.
Believe it or not, legislators are regular men, regular women, just like the rest of us.
These folks live and work in the same community that you do. And I think it's just as important that you try to get to know them as they are trying to get to know you.
We think the legislators just reside at the State House or downtown. Actually, these legislators all spend half their time back in your home district.
These meetings are happening all over Ohio. You don't have to be in Columbus to be involved. In fact, I'm sad because many of the meetings in the last year have happened out of Columbus, have happened in more rural areas. We're trying to get the word out, we're trying to get to your representatives, trying to get to those representatives in your area.
So even if you think, I can't get downtown, I can't get to Columbus, I don't want to go to the State House, it's intimidating. You don't have to do that. Meet them, ask in your email, ask in your phone call, hey, can I meet with them back in our district? I love this restaurant in our district, can we meet there? Most likely they're gonna enjoy going there. You have a few drinks, have a meal, brings everybody's anxiety down. You may know people at the restaurant and say hi to them, and that will reduce your anxiety. It's less intimidating. Even if they go to Columbus, the environment in Columbus is actually less intimidating than they think. Most of the legislators don't reside at the State House. They reside actually in offices that are across the street. It's a less intimidating environment. They have an aide that's there that's very welcoming. They want to hear from you.
The fact that you take time to meet, that you build that personal relationship, have a good discussion about your profession is really what's most important, because everybody likes a nice relationship with other people. We appreciate those who come to us, those who want to educate us. So I look at this really mainly as a relationship building.
It's really about getting to know them to make sure that you are able to contact them when it's important to advocate on behalf of the nurse anesthetist, but it's vital for them to be able to understand you and your profession and what it is specifically that a CRNA does for Ohioans.
So really, again, promote your profession, promote your skill sets, promote your education. Just become a good friend with your legislator.
Once you do it, you will always you will see that it's a lot easier than you thought it would be. Every person that does it I talk to says, hey, that was not as bad as I thought. They actually wanted to hear what I had to say. I was not intimidated once I got to know them. Once I saw that they were a human being like me or just an average Joe person like me. Over the last couple of years, I would take my graduate students into a visit, and by the second day I would have them run the visits. These are graduate students, not even CRNAs. And we enable them with confidence to go from, I know nothing, I don't even know how to get to the office, to one day later, I'm running the meetings. So if we know if our students can do that, definitely our seniors can do it because they have much more experience to live off of. You may want to reach out to our lobbyist or another CRNA that's done this and say, hey, could you go with me? But most of our legislators are from rural areas, and so it's really easy to reach out.
Prior to meeting with any legislator, I think it's important to do some homework. There's a lot of information available on each of these legislators, and I think it's a good idea for you to have a good understanding of who you're meeting with, their background. These folks live and work in your community as well. There's a lot that you'll have in common with them, and so I think it's a good idea to take the time to get to know a little bit about the people that you're meeting.
I think one of the most important things before you meet with any legislator is to get your mindset right. I tell people that if you're going to meet with a legislator, your default should be that they want to support you. And the reason that's important is because it makes your body language better. It makes it more positive. And you're there to give them the reasons why they are right to support you. And if you give them those reasons and you assume that they're with you, they'll tell you if they're not, or they'll begin to challenge you on your points. And if you get challenged on those points, come back to us, let us know what those are, because those are arguments that either the other side is telling them, or it's things that we need to either go back and correct, or it might be things that there might be room for compromise there.
It's important not to assume that they know and understand or have a deep level of knowledge about your profession and exactly what it means to be a certified registered nurse anesthetist.
The biggest thing is if you don't know exactly what to say, just be respectful and be nice, but tell them your story. We all have a story. Every CRNA has a story, how a lack of legislation has impacted our practice for the patients, safety issues, delays in care. Just tell them your story, tell them your experience. And you don't have to go into that right away. You don't have to say, Mr. Congressman, and go right into your story. Have a genuine conversation with them. Hey, where are you from around here? What town did you grow up in our district? Hey, you grew up in, and I guarantee probably 90% of the time, you're going to have a person in common that you both know.
You don't have to discuss politics. You don't have to discuss policy issues, or you don't have to feel obligated to be making arguments or trying to win political battles.
Please don't worry about getting into the weeds and into the details of issues. We will more than likely have some talking points, very high-level talking points, but in the end, you know your profession better than anybody.
You may have to go to the ANA website or the OSANA website and pull down information. Here's what nurse anesthetists do, right? Here's where we practice. And then you might even take information or data about your area. Hey, CRNAs are the primary care provider or primary providers of anesthesia at 4 of the hospitals in your district. We're on call. Mm-hmm. There's no anesthesiologist there during the day. There is one during the day. We do OB cases there. We do general surgery cases.
If you're talking about a specific piece of legislation that is being considered at a time, like House Bill 548 last session, what I would encourage you to do is approach a legislator from this standpoint. Somewhere during the meeting and towards the end of the meeting, maybe several times, make the point that you would appreciate their consideration of supporting our issue. I think it's sometimes maybe usually difficult to actually ask them if they're going to support you or not. Most legislators won't give you that commitment. I think it tends to put them on a spot. But I think you need to be, we all need to be good listeners. I think if a legislator sounds positive, maybe push that a little bit, certainly ask for their support. But I always like to ask in a way that doesn't make them uncomfortable. And I think that generally is something like, we hope that you would please consider supporting our, House Bill 500, whatever it is. Please reach out to us if you need more information. Your main goal is to be a good educator about what your profession does and things like that. Never be negative about other professions or about other people. All of us like to hear a positive message from other people. So please never ever even come close to saying negative things about anesthesiologists or surgeons or others who in the legislative process oppose us.
Don't be disrespectful. Don't be defensive. And a really important one that people make this mistake a lot. Don't think that just because you're talking to a staffer that you've been passed off. Staff is incredibly important in this process.
Get to know the legislative aides. As we know, the legislative aides are 20 to 25-year-old people, right? They're just as intimidated by you as you are of them. And their job is to be nice to you as a constituent. So they will work with you.
When you send a letter, or you send an email, or you ask for a meeting, the staffer is the one who decides whether you get that meeting or whether that letter gets read. Those people are very important and deserve the exact same amount of respect as the office that they also represent as a staffer in those district offices.
The legislative life, in many respects, is kind of lonely. It's really an honor to serve, but you pull a lot of different directions. You have a lot of people wanting your time. So please make sure that you let them know how much you appreciate them taking time to meet with you.
I think when you try to make a connection with the legislator, there's a few key ways to do that. One is to find them in a social setting where you're not asking them for anything. That's why the fundraiser is so important. If you go to a fundraiser and you're not asking, and by the way, if you go to a fundraiser, you really shouldn't be asking. You should just be getting to know them. And it is really a social setting, and you know they're going to be there because it's their fundraiser, so the best thing is to just go, be supportive.
Just being a CRNA that goes to an event that your representative puts on, go see them.
A legislator is extremely appreciative of local people who will take the time and effort to bring a check to a campaign fundraiser event.
We've had golf outings and we've had dinners where CRNAs attended, even if they're not on the board, they've been able to attend because the legislator was in their district.
There were also some fundraising events for state representatives at wineries. There were also a few dinner parties that members attended around the state of Ohio.
So you're going to go have a free dinner and talk to the legislator about what you do for a living. It's a nice way to spend the evening.
When I served in the legislature, raising money is very difficult. Asking people for money is very difficult. So when somebody, especially somebody like you, who would take time to go to a local fundraiser, ask for a PAC check, lets Peggy or lets one of us know that you want to go to an event upcoming.
I've been an OSANA member for many years, over 17 years, and I did not know that if I wanted to attend a fundraiser in my hometown for my state representative or my state senator, I could just reach out to OSANA.
Members can definitely request money to attend a fundraiser for a legislator in their district. That's a great way to engage. That shows the legislators that we are supportive of their campaign and that makes them interested in our causes.
And let that legislator know that they appreciate their service. Let them know that we as CRNA support them, and let that legislator know we are there for them. You would be shocked how few people in a given legislative district are willing to do that. So when somebody like you, a professional, takes the time to go to an event, to take a check, it leaves a very, very positive, deep impression on that legislator.
And that makes a big impact if the legislators' constituents are the ones that are at their fundraiser versus a board member who doesn't live in their district.
Our PAC actually gave contributions for golf events around the state of Ohio. I actually attended one or two of those with CRNAs from those districts. They seem to be very successful. The OSANA members, we even had some students attend some of those golf outings.
You go to one senator's campaign and you contribute, and they have 5 other people that they're going to tell about CRNAs and why our practice is important.
And an example of that is my state senator is John Eklund, and he had a nice fundraising event in my district a few months ago, and I reached out to the OSANA PAC. They gave me a contribution that I brought with me, but also brought a personal contribution for myself. So in the end, the senator received 2 contributions, one for myself and one from the OSANA PAC, and I think that has a large impact
When I first became PAC chair, I went to the Ron Young fundraiser a year ago with my husband for another organization, and I made a personal contribution to his campaign and stood in line to talk with him. And he was very interested in CRNAs and didn't know that much about us. Fast forward to this year, we had 5 CRNAs attend, plus our lobbyist attend Ron Young's fundraiser, and we also brought a check from OSANA in addition to our own personal checks. And he knew exactly who we were and what we stand for and what our House bill was.
The PAC works in conjunction with our lobbyists, and they believe in strategic giving, which is essentially giving money to people that can help advance our causes.
The decisions will be made by the PAC board and we, your lobbyists, as to who to give to, how much money to give to at certain times.
It's important when dealing with PACs that every single dollar that's put into a PAC is a person's money. People across the state put that money in, and they did it for one purpose. They did it so that the lobbying team can go change the world to their advantage. And the best way to do that is to make smart decisions so that you spend the money the most impactful way.
This really is not political R&D. This is more about impacting with your PAC dollars legislators who are in a position to help us or in some cases hurt us.
100% of the money that's raised goes directly to supporting candidates that also support CRNAs.
So I know that I've been at meetings before, and many members would ask me, why are we giving more money to Democrats? Why are we giving more money to Republicans? Well, in the end, it doesn't really matter which group we're giving money to.
No group works to keep the money even. The money is there to be leveraged so that you get the most face time and access and try to get people to understand your issues.
And so this political giving isn't really about R&Ds. Right now, the Republicans control the legislature, the governor's office, etc. But we will strategically give money to both parties based on their support, based on committee votes, based on a lot of factors that we would take into consideration.
I don't care if a legislator is a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care if they come from a rural district or if they come from an urban district. I don't care if they're from the southern half of the state or the northern half of the state. I care about one thing. Do they support nurse anesthesia? If they do that, then that's a person that we can support.
And the whole point of it is to ensure that that we are supporting the people that support our industry.
And sometimes people find themselves in a position to help more than other people, and those people get more support. And that's really what we do.
We're trying to advance our scope of practice laws, protect our scope of practice, and also to pass bills to help advance our specialty.
Why we should have prescriptive authority, why down the road we should have the supervision issue like all the other states.
We take the OSANA PAC dollars and contribute them to legislators that we think will help advance our bills or our agenda, essentially.
Are you somebody that can support CRNAs? Have you taken the time to know who we are? And if people do that, and if we can count on them to help us get across the finish line, then those are the people we support. It's that simple.
It would be easy if we could take all your dues money and put it into the PAC, but that's not the way it works. It's a separate entity, it's a legal process.
PAC money is separate from your dues by law. So that's why all the fundraising for the PAC, you hear about that. And then the AANA PAC is totally separate from the OSANA PAC. We get none of the funds that you contribute to the AANA, which is important also.
And so we have to have a PAC fund separate from your dues. It's unfortunate, but it's the way the law is written.
Politics takes money, and it is very, very good for your profession when we can go to fundraisers here in Columbus, or you go to fundraisers back home in your district, and take that check.
If you want to have a seat at the table, the way politics works, whether you like it or not, it's reality. You may not like it, but it's what has to happen is you have to donate money to get a seat at the table.
I think in the past, our organization did a great job in raising these PAC funds, but our goal was to have a big bankroll sitting there every year and we would pat ourselves on the back. But in the end, you need to spend those funds that impact. What good does it do you if you have a large amount of money but you're not spending it?
We have had CRNAs generously contribute a lot of money to the PAC this year, but we've also spent a lot of money this year.
We need you to donate to the PAC.
A check is an excellent way to contribute, and that can be applied towards CRNA initiatives within the state.
The spring meeting, we raised a record amount, close to $15,000, and that was done by introducing the Give Up a Cup campaign.
The GWA campaign is the Give Up a Cup campaign that our PAC came up with, and it's a great idea. It's in essence, CRNAs, I would say probably the majority of them drink coffee, and we know that Starbucks coffee is very expensive. So the idea was that if a CRNA is willing to give up 1 cup of coffee a month, which is $5.
If you give up a cup of coffee, tea, beer, your beverage of choice, once a month, that's $5. Times 12 months, that's $60 a year.
$60 a year. If every member in our organization gave up that $60, then our OSANA PAC would be very well funded.
If every CRNA and SRNA in the state of Ohio did that, we'd have over $100,000 in our PAC.
We buy an extra appetizer here at a restaurant. We buy an extra Starbucks cup of coffee. That's our Give Up a Cup campaign for our PAC. If we were to just take that little bits amount of money and redirect that towards our PAC fund, that makes a huge difference.
The reason I think a CRNA should give to the PAC is because it's the easiest thing they can do to participate. Everyone can afford to write a PAC check. Think of it like an insurance policy. You're making the first small commitment, and if that's replicated across the state with all the CRNAs, that would be a nice sized PAC to go up against a lot of doctor groups who have really big PACs.
So I encourage you to please consider writing out a check or several checks over the year to the OSANA PAC.
There's many ways that a CRNA or an SRNA can contribute to the PAC.
You can go to our website, osana.org, and you could follow the prompts on the screen. There's a huge Give Up a Cup campaign. You could do a monthly donation that reoccurs every month, or you could do a yearly contribution. You also could send a check to our office on High Street there in Columbus.
You can contribute by going to the fundraiser. You can donate an item to the fundraiser. You can buy something from the silent auction.
So there are many ways that you can contribute to our organization.
Why is it important for students to get involved in the legislative process? Obviously near and dear to my heart, being the former student representative to the board. Advocacy starts early. No longer is it the chance to kind of join later in the game. The sooner that you get aware, the sooner that you take interest, this is your profession.
Involving students in the legislative process is vital because they're our next generation. They're our next emerging leaders, and they're the next group that's going to form what OSANA is and what nurse anesthesia is in the future.
We encourage them to go to the state meetings, the national meetings. We encourage them to get involved in the board. We get them time off from our program to have administrative days if they're a student board member. If they want to come to meetings, we make it easier for them to go to meetings.
Professor Garrett with Otterbine's program has always given us that platform to be able to see what the power of one person can actually do. A lot of people, I'm just one person, I can't do that. Well, as a matter of fact, a lot of people assume that business is done from the top down. In actuality, if those people don't do what they're supposed to do as individuals at the bottom, then the top you can't achieve the goals of the overall community.
Here's what we find out in Ohio. Every program starts their advocacy differently with students. If all of our programs started the advocacy earlier in the program and pushed our programs out, that means say if there's 200 graduates a year come out, that means 200 CRNAs right off the bat already have advocacy going. If only half of our programs are doing advocacy or training our students on what's happening politically, professionally in an organization, then we have only 100 CRNAs coming out of school that are ready to go understand the issues, and the other half, we may or may not capture them because it all depends on if they pay attention to what's, social media or our website, things like that. So we have to have all the schools engaged, so when we come out, they're already educated on the issues, so we don't lose half of them right out of the box.
They can all be involved in the process. We encourage them to become involved, and we'll mentor you.
Is it important to build relationships with those that are already in the field, those who already have a great grasp on the way that the CRNAs operate, or just building those relationships even for personal benefit later. Situations may arise that you may be able to go and work and do some of the things that are important to you in that specific practice.
I'm not a board member of OSANA for me personally. I'm a board member so I can model it for my students and help the membership. When the students see that, then they see that, hey, I can do this. My program director's doing it.
Any student who wants to get involved should get involved, definitely because you matter. I've sat in meetings and I'm just a student, but I've had the attention of the whole board. If I'm speaking, everybody's quiet, everybody listens. It doesn't mean that my position is always going to be taken, but at least it's well received, it's listened to. If we don't get involved as students and continue that fight, to gain ground, who's going to do it? It can be all of what you make it. If you want to be really involved, I've made a lot of meetings thus far, and it's all time management. So there's nothing didactically that I've felt stressed about by coming to these meetings. I would encourage, all students to get involved in one way or the other, whether it's going to legislative visits, whether it's coming to board meetings just to see how they operate. Meeting those people. Anesthesia is an extremely close-knit group, a very small community, relatively speaking, in Ohio. So, to meet those different people throughout the state and share in some of those different shortcomings, or challenges, I should say is a better term, that they may experience. You kind of grow and bounce ideas off of each other, and we're all a team at the end of the day.
To my fellow CRNAs, right now is an important time at the state level. Federal level, we've been fighting for years, and yes, we've had some defeats there and some wins there. But right now, if we want our practice in Ohio to succeed, if we want to have more opportunities, if we want to have a better lifestyle, if we want to make more money, we have to change Ohio Revised Code to allow us to practice to our full scope of training.
This is shaping our profession for years to come. As our workforce gets older and our newer students graduate and become CRNAs of the state, we need to make sure that we're leaving the profession solid.
Moving forward, we need to be more aware of what's come before and what's changing. Things are moving too fast to be passive anymore.
By not being involved in the PAC or understanding the political part of being a CRNA, you are making a choice, and that's to not be involved.
People decide to assume that somebody's going to do it for them. They don't want to get involved, either too much time, or I'm not involved, or I don't like politics. Well, the fact of the matter is, it's our profession.
I've been a CRNA for 17 years, and I have to say that I wasn't very politically active the first 14 years of my career. The past 3 years, I have seen the importance of becoming politically active. At the end of the day, you have to remember that legislators are the ones that are either making laws that can help you advance your practice, or they are creating laws that can block your scope of practice.
Here's what we're asking. $50 to $100 a month, where you buy a few less appetizers, a few less cups of coffee, a few less Diet Cokes, and give that to our PAC. When we send an email, take 2 or 3 minutes of your time to respond back to that email. And if you want to get involved and you have a talent, people on our board have different talents, and what we try to do with our board is match them up. Karen Nye loves event planning, does a phenomenal job. Look what we've done with PAC in the last last year. We have people who have business backgrounds, and look what they're doing there. We have people more experienced with education. We have program directors on the board. So they're our educational experts, and we give them tasks to do, and they offer up new ideas. Our board is different now. Our board is open to ideas. Our board wants your ideas. And by coming just and spending an hour of your time at a board meeting or 2 hours or sending suggestions, that's how we operate now.
I again want to ask you to support the PAC.
Support OSANA. Support the CRNA PAC. We can't do this for you, but we can do it with you.
Not everyone can take the time to be directly involved in the legislative activity of the association or the political activity of the association, but I think everyone can write a check to help support the team.
So please, CRNAs, small amount of time, small amount of money, micro volunteerism. All 2,000, 2,200 of us give a little bit of our time. It makes a huge difference at the state level.